will be reading an article from the Walla Walla Gazette for November 23rd, 1895, entitled Cowboy Sermon. It is by Captain Jack Crawford, the poet Scott, published in the Gazette by special contract with the author. There was a large gathering of cowboys at the Mesquite Ranch on the Pecos to attend the funeral of Charlie Reed, who had been killed by the falling of his horse on the roundup 2 days before. The coffin was placed beside the open grave beneath a great cottonwood tree, and standing at the head of the corpse, Pony Bill, the cowboy preacher, said, "Boys, I hardly know what kind of talk to give you on this sad occasion. For several years I have worked with you on the ranges, and have preached to you in my awkward way every time I could round up a bunch of you, and hold you listen to me, but I will never afore called on to talk in the presence of death. Day afore yesterday, this poor dead boy here throwed on his saddle and rode out with you in joyous spirits, singing the songs of the ranges. Little did he then dream that he was riding right into the bog of eternity. While cutting a steer out of a bunch, his hoss struck a prairie dog hole and fell, crushing poor Charlie to the ground. And when you picked him up in his immortal soul, it crossed the divide into the great ranges beyond, from which there's no back trails. Death loves a shining mark, and it never pitched a rope at a brighter one than this boy. He war my friend. I've knowed him ever since he struck the country 3 years ago, and you all bank high on the truth of the statement when I say a square boy never swung a rope. No one asks a favor of Charlie Reed without it being cheerfully granted. He were never known to make a low-down play. He never made a back set on duty when the foreman ordered a rid. True, he were wild and reckless, but that were no devil-brand wickedness in his make-up. His heart were a living spring, from which the pure waters of friendship and generosity toward his companions o' the saddle ever flowed. He could laugh with you over the joys and cuss with you over your sorrows. His soul seemed to be a blazing fire of sympathy, to which all who were chilled by the blasts of trouble could come and warm up. He were as brave as a lion, but his heart was as tender as a Christian woman's. He would fight like a wild steer for himself or for a friend, yet a little child could take him by the hand and lead him out of a muss. He wasn't a bad man. Did you ever notice that in the evenings of payday he never joined you in your songs and stories and fun-making at the ranch? He'd get up in a corner and set there a-writing page after page, with a look on his face as tender as I ever saw't on the face of an angel. He seemed never to hear your hilarity, but sit there and write, now and then smiling lovingly, now and then wiping tears from his cheeks on the back of his hand. Next morning he'd jump on a hoss and ride to the post office. And what did he do thar? Just an even half his month's pay go into a money order, and that order be put into an envelope with all the sheets of writing he had writ the night before. Then I've seen him do it several times, boys. He'd kiss that letter fondly, drop it in the box, and walk out with the purtiest look on his face I ever did saw. Who were that letter addressed to? To his old widder mother back in the States. Would a bad man act that-a-way? I tell you, boys, Charlie wasn't a regularly branded and earmarked church Christian, But I believe when the good Lord saw his soul a-comin' up the slope a day afore yesterday, he threw down the bars and let the boy into the heavenly corral with a welcomin' smile. How my heart aches for that poor old mother, who is as yet unaware of her terrible loss. He were her only staff to lean on, and you all know how manfully, unlovingly he stood up for the work. May the great Foreman above soothe and comfort her till he calls her up to join her boy at the home ranch amid the celestial pastures. I heard when I got here this morning that each of you had a talk among yourselves, and each one agreed to chip in every month to keep that dear old soul comfortable till she went to whar Charlie could take care of her again. Boys, God'll love you for that if you do. Tug at the gospel rope and fight shy of him. I'll help all I can, and every time I make a gospel talk to the boys on the other ranges, I'll send my sombrero through the bunch and cut out all the cash I can for her benefit. When I speak that magic word, mother, to 'em, they can no more keep their hands from flying in their pockets than they can a rope a steer with sewing thread. Ah, Charlie, old boy, goodbye. We are about to lay you to your eternal rest, and we'll do it with sore hearts and leaky eyes. Your ears would not hear the thumps of our hosses' feet as we gallop near your grave, but we'll always think of you when we see this little mound beneath the spreading tree. I feel that you can always see us, and when you look down from your new station up yonder above the stars and see the boys sending their love to your old mother along with their monthly assessments, you'll feel so doggone good and happy you'll have to tell your chum angels about it. As you come up to take a last look at this dear dead face and say goodbye to your old partner, I hope you'll do some serious thinking. None of you knows who'll be next. Even now the pale rider of death may be looking over you and taking down his rope for a final throw, and you don't know over whose head the tug'll fall. I'm afeard none of you'd fared as well as I believe Charlie has if you war to run afore the heavenly inspector today. Some of you think no more a breaking the commandments of God than you do a breaking a bronco, and if you war bunched now and started on your last drive, you'd leave the trail to glory away off to the right. Perhaps there isn't one of ye but thinks he'll call a halt on sin some day, but in most of your cases, I'm afeard Gabriel'll get in. His call ahead o' you. Why can't you jar loose from your sins now, and not keep standing the Lord off from day to day? You'll break the strands o' his rope of forbearance after a while, and hit the bottomless bog of damnation with both feet, and seek to eternal misery. The fences of sin ain't high, and you can jump 'em. Let me implore you to take a run at 'em and drift over onto the pleasant ranges of God. Think of this, boys, when you stand over Charlie here, and each one of you make a promise to him that you'll take the trail to heaven today, and foller it in spite of the allurements the devil sits upon the cross trails along the route. Come on now, and shake this cold hand and say goodbye to the boy you all loved. Jack Crawford.